السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. كيف حالكم جميعا يا أيها الإخوة وأخوات. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our fast, which is, by the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala, is the third day of fasting in the month of Ramadan, which is also, we are coming up on the fourth night by the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala. So we are on day 3 of Ramadan and coming up on the fourth night by Maghrib for Ramadan. This is also day 3 of our Quran series, where we be going into a closer look and reviewing the Quran, the first 20 verses of the second surah of the Quran, which is called Surah Baqarah. And alhamdulillah, with the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala, we were able to take and go over some of the important and the different positions pertaining to the letters that we see comes in the Quran, like Alif, Lam, Mim, Ha, Mim, Taha, and the different letters that we see come in the Quran. We were able to go over them and the different positions, inshallah ta'ala, as to what they actually mean, or some of the scholars have said. So today, inshallah ta'ala, we will go on to the second verse in Surah Baqarah. The second verse. Okay, and as we said before, it was asked, why have we chosen to go over these specific verses, the first 20 verses of Surah Baqarah? Is because, like we said, inshallah ta'ala, for those who stay with the series, you're going to see that this pertains to us, and very much to us and to our lives and things like that. Tayyib. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the second verse of Surah Baqarah, he said, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. That's the entire verse. ذَلِكَ, and we're going to talk about this in the actual, inshallah ta'ala, tafsir. But dhalika kitab, even though dhalika means that, here it means this, okay? Here it means this is the book meaning the Quran, okay? This is the book wherein there is no doubt. There is no doubt. And it is a guidance for the people who have taqwa. Tayyib, Shaykh Saalih Fawzaad, hafidhahullah, he commented on this tremendous verse, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. He said that here, that is used as what we call a demonstrative pronoun. Okay? And for, not to get too technical, but for us English speaking people, it's basically like this. Normally when you use that, which is dhalika stand for, you use that for something that is far, for objects that might be far. And you use this, have that, for something that might, for objects that might be close. For example, I say, this is my steering wheel, and that is my car door. This here, meaning the steering wheel, is actually closer to me, and that, being that the car door is a little bit distant from me, I will use that for that. So here is an ismun ishara, and the lam is indicated to use for something that shows distance. Right? Now, what's the point of knowing all of this? Because you have to ask yourself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have not placed nothing in the Quran haphazardly. He did not place anything in the Quran by way of a mistake. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all wise. He's al-Hakim. He's al-Alim. Okay? He's the all-knower. So he did not do anything haphazardly. So if Allah uses the ismul ishara and the lamul al-bu'd, he used the dhalika, which is used for something that is far. Why would he use it here for the kitab, which is something that is close? We're going to see that, inshallah ta'ala. Taib, he says, وَالْكَافُ حَرْفُ الْكِتَابِ. And the ka that comes in dhalika, all right? That kaf is used for something that address, okay? We call it a harf of kitab. It pointing out, what is it doing? It's pointing out the book, which is the Quran. And the way that it is pointing it out is pointing it out as isharat ta'zim wal ijlal. Okay? It is showing the grandeur, the status, the greatness, the magnitude, and the nobility that the Quran has. This is why Allah is using dhalika. He's saying dhalika al-kitab because this book is great. It is esteemed. It is magnified. It is glorious. So Allah did not say hadha al-kitab. He did not say this book. No, He said dhalika al-kitab. It alerts the reader now. Why will Allah use something that's for something that's far? Because now Allah is alerting the reader. He's making the reader be aware that the book that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about, even though it's close, is still high in status. Shaykh Saalih rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, in his commentary of the same particular verse in Surah Baqarah, which is the second verse, he brings another point where he says that the book, being as though it's magnified and Allah is using it, it also shows that the person who sticks to the book, the person who sticks to the Quran, the one who holds firmly to the Quran, the one who adheres to the commands and the prohibitions of the Quran, it also shows the lofty status of that person. Okay? So just as the Quran is elevated, the person who hears and practices towards the Quran, they are also elevated. Now you can see, if you go back to the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he would bury the people according to how much Quran that they had. He would bury the people according to how much Quran that they have. Like in some of the different battles, if so-and-so had memorized Surah Baqarah or memorized more portion of this, the Prophet ﷺ would bury them according to the Quran, because the Quran elevates you. As Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, indeed this book, it elevates some people and it debases others. It elevates some people and it debases others. This is why it's important that the person who actually truly adheres to the Quran, character is impeccable. You understand? Because if you look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, our mother said, she said, "Kana khuluquhu al-Qur'an," that his character was the Quran. So whoever adheres to the Quran, truly adheres to the Quran, not like in our times, people who had the ability to memorize the Quran by wording, al-fadh. They have the ability to recite the Quran beautifully. They know the tajweed. But when it comes to the fahm, when it comes to the actual implementation of the Quran, it is far from their actions. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from that, Ameen. But in reality, to be elevated is not just because you have memorized the book. You have to actually walk and live by the book, and your status will become elevated. Your status will become elevated. So now we see why Allah is saying ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. Okay, hopefully that's understood. All right. The Shaykh said, أي الذي لا يشابهه غيره فهو أعظم كتاب. Meaning that there is nothing like it. There is nothing similar to it. There is nothing compared to it. It is a book that has been authored by the Lord of all of the creation. Okay? The creation we can see and the creation we cannot see. All right? So it is the greatest book that has ever been sent down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right? So this is how we understand ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. So when we read that, we're not saying that book. We're saying this book with the meaning of that, but because it's elevated. طيب. Then Allah say, La rayba fi. Okay? Now for those who read the Quran and understand and they recite the Quran, it is best to stop on La rayba fi and not La rayb. Okay? Some people, when they say ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ, it's not good to stop there. It's good to stop on La rayba fi. And if you want to know more about this, you can go back to the tafsir of Ibn Kathir, who explains it very loosely, as well as Shaykh Saalih in his tafsir. He explains it as well, that it's best to stop on La rayba fi and not La rayb. Okay? Meaning no doubt, but there's no doubt therein. Tayyib. Shaykh Fawzaad, he said, here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is negating doubt. Negating having any suspect, anything in your mind that you can conceive of that will come to you to make you think that this book isn't from the Lord of all creation. That this book doesn't contain the benefit for mankind. That this book isn't the book or the pathway or the guidance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in the Quran, if we were to reveal this Quran upon a mountain, ala jabal, you would see it crush khashi'an mutasaddi'an. You would see that if we reveal this Quran upon a mountain, you would see that the mountain will crush. We're talking about the Quran here. the words of Allah, the mountain will crush, it will rip asunder due to the power, due to the actual words of Allah Azza wa Jal. And this is something that you can see that one of the companions, and I believe it was one of the Zayds, who mentioned that it was Zayd ibn Haritha, if I'm correct, who said that he was riding with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was with him on a camel when the Prophet sallallahu would receive revelation. And when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would receive revelation, he said that he felt the weight of it pressing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam thigh, pressing against his thigh. He felt the weight, the esteem of it, the weight of it, actually pressing physically down on him. So we know that the Quran is esteemed, and that when it comes down, it's actually, it's actually heavy. It's actually heavy. It's heavy. So if we understand this in this proper context, there is no way that we should, believers now, we're talking about, should be reading the book of Allah like it's a light matter. We should not be reading the book of Allah like it's a light matter. And whenever you come across something in the book of Allah that you yourself do not understand, there's a golden rule that you must keep in mind. It's your understanding that's at fault, and it's not the book of Allah. It is your understanding that is at fault and not the book of Allah. Meaning that you yourself should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide you to that which is more closer to the haqq. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Muhammad in Surah Al-Kahf. Pray that Allah guide you, that He increase you in ilm. Okay, that He increase you in more knowledge, because it might be it's definitely your understanding. It's not the book of Allah. So He said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is negating this raib, this shak. He said, فَلَا يَتَطَرَّقُ إِلَيْهِ شَك. So doubt is not, it's not even conceivable that doubt can approach this book in any form whatsoever. وَلَا يَأْتِيهِ الْبَاطِلُ مِنْ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ. Falsehood cannot approach it from in front of it, وَلَا مِنْ خَلْفِهِ, nor from behind it. وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. And he quote the verse in Surah Nisa, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala negates contradiction from the book of Allah. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ غَيْرِ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ. Have this book been from anyone other than Allah, لَوَجَدُوا, they would have found فِيهِ, in it, اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا, many different contradictions therein. They would have found many contradictions therein. What does this show, brothers and sisters? This shows that human beings by default are imperfect. Human beings by default will make a blunder, will make a mistake. Human beings by default do not get it right. 100%. Human beings by default. Do you see any rifts in the skies? Do you see any rifts in there? Anything in there that's just ripped up or broke? No. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, keep looking. Rarely your eyes will come back worn out. Meaning you can exhaust yourself over and over looking into and trying to see in that magnifying glass, trying to see in that telescope, you're trying to see, is it any problems or flaws within the creation of Allah Jalla wa Ala? And you will come to find out that rarely there is none. Because the Creator is perfect. The Creator doesn't do anything haphazardly, which shows that we are in need of Him and He's not in need of us. Okay? We are in need of Him and He's not in need of us. And it's important to understand. So there is no contradiction whatsoever in the Quran. There is repetition in the Quran, brothers and sisters. Whenever you might be debating or maybe going over something with someone who is a non-believer or someone who have doubt about the Quran, when they try to bring you some confusion and say, well, rarely the Quran does have a contradiction, you say, no, there's repetition. There are verses that are mutashabihah, that are similar in wording, that are repeated, but there is no contradiction whatsoever in the Quran. None whatsoever. Even if you're not a person to be able to delve into the meanings of the Quran, you have to understand that there is no contradiction in the Quran. Allah Jalla wa Ala said, هُوَ الَّذِي أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who has revealed unto you, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the book. مِنْهُ آيَاتٌ مُحْكَمَاتٌ. From it there are verses that are muhkamat, that deals with the ahkam. They are clear, they are lucid, what you should do and what you should not do. And then there are verses which are mutashabihat. There are verses which are not so clear. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows their true meanings. And for those who Allah has indulged in knowledge, insight, to be able to study the Quran and understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, or the hikmah, or the purpose. So, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends it, this beautiful verse, which is the second verse. He said, هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by saying ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, He shows us the status of this book. That this book is elevated, that it is lofty, that it is magnified, that it is esteemed. Okay? After showing us that, then He tells us that this book have no contradiction. There is no doubt in the book. You can follow it absolutely and don't have to worry about anything else. If you was going to blind follow anything, you would be this book. Okay? If you was going to blind follow anything, it would be this particular book here. You can do it. You can have your blindfolds on. You can follow this book because there is no doubt. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions something at the end of this about the greatness of the book, about the fact that the book is free from any errors. Then He mentioned Huda lil muttaqeen. It is a guidance. Not just a guidance, ya akhwa, wa akhwa, brothers and sisters, but it's a guidance for who? Pay attention now. It is a guidance for the people of taqwa. Okay? It is a guidance for the people of taqwa, meaning that the people of iman, meaning the people who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and follow His commands and stay away from His prohibitions, this isn't a problem for them. They understand that it is a huda for them. Okay? Shaykh Saalih Fawzaad, he continues. He said, هذه صفة ثانية للقرآن. He said, this is the second characteristic to the Quran. وَالْهُدَى مَعْنَاهُ, and then he goes into the meaning of huda. This is the second characteristic in the Quran. All right? For the Quran. Okay? That it is a huda. Okay? All right? So we know that Allah Jalla wa Ala calls the Quran multiple things in the Quran. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the Quran is a huda. Shaykh Fawzani give us some insight. He said the meaning of huda, it is ad-dalalatu wal-irshadu ila tariq as-sawab. It is a light. It is a direction. It is being guided to the correct path, to the correct way. All right? It is a direction or being guided to the correct way. He said, فَقُرْآنٌ فِيهِ دِلَالَةٌ وَإِرْشَاءِ إِلَى طَرِيقِ الْحَقِّ وَطَرِيقِ الْجَنَّةِ. He said, because the Quran contains within it a guidance and a direction towards the path of truth and the path of paradise. If a person wants to get to Jannah, read the Quran. If a person wants to get to Jannah, read the Quran. If a person wants to get to Jannah, read the Quran. Okay? But then you cannot understand without the Sunnah. So for those people who are ignorant and those people who the shaitan has inspired, if you think that you're going to read the Quran without the Sunnah, then you're sadly mistaken. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ. As Allah said, indeed, in Surah Nahl, Allah said, indeed, we have sent down the dhikr to you, O Muhammad. لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ, in order for you to clarify to the people, مَا نُزِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ, that which has been revealed to them. So the Sunnah is needed, brothers and sisters, in order to understand the Quran. Okay? So you can't have one without the other. But if you read the Quran, you should understand that the Sunnah is needed, and this is the pathway to go to Jannah. He said, وَهُدَى كَمَا ذَكَرْنَا, and huda, guidance, is as we have mentioned before, it is divided into two categories. Now this is when we put our student hat on. We get a little studious here. All right, he's getting ready to give us some extra benefit here. He's telling us that guidance is divided into two categories. Okay? The first of the guidance is what we call guidance of irshad. This type of guidance, okay, I'm going to break it down in a nutshell without going too deep. This type of guidance is the type of guidance where everyone has this ability to guide someone or direct someone to that which is correct. Okay? Every one of us, from the prophets, from the martyrs, from the truthful, from the companions, all the way on down to even to one of us. We all have the ability to direct someone to that which is right. Okay? Now, this type of guidance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not keep just for Himself. All right? The Shaykh continues. Okay? The second type of guidance, brothers and sisters, is known as the guidance of tawfiq. Okay? Now, this type of guidance is the guidance that's only in the hands of Allah. Okay? This type of guidance is only in the hands of Allah. Meaning that, yes, you can guide someone to that which is correct, but you cannot make that person accept that. Only Allah has the ability to give them the success to accept that particular guidance that you're trying to give them. And the best saying for me that makes me understand both of these categories is, you ever heard the saying that said that you can lead a horse to the water, but you cannot make the, right? You can lead a horse to the well, but you cannot make the horse drink. That's how I understand these two categories. Because you can lead the horse to the well, meaning you can do the first type of guidance. You can give guidance to someone. You can direct them to that which is right, right? But in order to make that horse drink, that tawfiq is with Allah. Only Allah can make that horse drink from that well. You only can lead the horse. That's your job. So when you're calling your people, when you're calling your family, whether it be from your wives, whether it be from your husbands, whether it be from your children, or when you're calling outside of your family, that's your immediate family, outside of your immediate family, you're calling to your mom, or you're calling to your father, you're calling to your brothers, or your sisters, or your aunts, or your uncles. When you're calling them, to know that for sure, your job is not to do what? You cannot make them accept the guidance no matter how much you love them. Allah Jalla wa Ala said, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. Indeed, you, O Muhammad, cannot guide those whom you love. This is important to understand. He's the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His uncle supported him in everything, Abu Talib. But he still wasn't able to guide Abu Talib to that which is correct. So you have to understand. You have to make sure you understand clearly that only Allah has the ability to grant that success of someone accepting that guidance. And this allows us not to get personal. This is why when you see a lot of people, when they give dawah, or you see people advising people, they become real upset when someone doesn't accept their advice. You got to be careful with that. Because are you upset because they're not accepting it from you, or they're not accepting the advice? Or are you upset that just because they're not accepting the advice? You have to distinguish between that. Because if you are calling for the sake of Allah, and you are guiding and advising for the sake of Allah, then you might be upset per se, but you might be disappointed, or you might be saddened. You might be distressed because they are not taking that which you know to be beneficial for them. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he described the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam state when calling his people. He said, Azizun. Okay? Meaning that it was upon him difficulty. It was difficulty. He was in distress over his people. But he knew that he was not their guardian. He knew that he was not in control of them. He knew that he cannot, because Allah said, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ عَلَيْهِمْ حَفِيظًا. We have not sent you as a watcher or a guardian over them, O Muhammad. Your job is only to convey. Until Allah, if they turn away from the guidance that you call them to, then only upon you is to convey. Understand, this guidance of irshad, not the guidance of tawfiq that is only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this also lets you know, don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Okay? When you don't make it personal, it allows you not to give up. Don't give up on an individual because you see an individual going down a wretched state. Do not forget the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and that beautiful hadith at the end. He mentioned that what? That a person would do the deeds of the people of paradise, so much so that he and it, he's a handspan between he and that which is written for him overtakes him, and he enters the hellfire. And vice versa, a person would do the deeds of the people of hellfire, so much so that that which is decreed for him overcomes him, and then he were made to be entered the deeds of the people of paradise. Okay, so we're letting us know, as Shaykh Saalih Fawzaad commented on this beautiful hadith, which is the fourth hadith in Ibn Nawawi. He says that what? That actions, based off another hadith, actions are by the khawatim, and by the conclusion. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Okay, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And none of us know how we're going to finish. Okay, so we don't give up on a person because we see a person falling, or a person making mistakes, or a person doing this. We don't give up. You understand what I'm saying? This concept of he's from Ahlul Bidah, there's no hope for him. It has its grounds. But who are you? You're not Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still see fit to wake that mutabdi, even if you want to say he's an innovator, he still see fit to wake him up. Allah is the one give us our soul back every day. Allah still see fit to wake the mubtadir up every day. Why would you, and I know I'm being a little bit extreme here, because it is understanding that a person who is a mubtadir, an innovator, there is a understanding that it's like a dog with rabies, as Shaykh Muhammad Abdul-Wahhab brought down, because that person who's upon innovation believes that they're getting closer to Allah and that which they're doing is correct, and they don't need to change it. It's not like the person who is a sinner who knows that he or she is doing something wrong, so it's hope for that person. But what I'm trying to get us to put in our mind is that we got to stop being so easy to write each other off. We have to stop that. We have to stop being so easy, write that person off, because we don't know how we're going to end. The Prophet ﷺ said, when you see someone maftoon, when you see someone being afflicted with some type of trial, you make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do not afflict you with the same thing that that particular person is being afflicted with. Because tomorrow or the next hour, you can be in a worse state than that person. Humbleness, humility, understanding that everything that you are upon is only by the fadl of Allah. And that you are only doing what you're doing. If you're fasting during this month of Ramadan, it's because of Allah. If you're praying during this month of Ramadan, it's because of Allah. If you are a person that's giving charity, or a person that is doing anything that is good, it's because of Allah. And once you get that in your mind, you do not become la taqtarbi amal nafsik. You do not become amazed or deceived by your own actions. Because just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is guiding you, He might be misguiding another individual. Or it might be you as an alama, a sign for that person, and the way that you treat that person comes back around. Okay, so we want to keep that in mind. The two types of guidance, the fact that the book is esteemed and lofty, that whoever adheres to it also will be esteemed and lofty. We also want to keep in mind that the book contains no contradiction. There's no doubt. And if you want to blind follow anything, we follow that book. This is just a recap. And we also want to understand that it is a guidance. And that guidance is broken down into two categories, and we explained that. And it's for the people of muttaqeen, and that's the last thing we're going to explain, and then we'll be done, inshallah. He said the muttaqun here is the plural form of the word muttaqin, the one who practiced taqwa. It's blessed to have this characteristic, all right, or strive with taqwa. He said, what is taqwa? Taqwa have many definitions. We probably can collect the book together, and you'll see from the Salaf, there's many definitions for the word taqwa. This is why when Shaykh Falah Ismail Mundaqa, when he was here, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, the scholar, the elderly scholar from, or the elder scholar, the Kibar from Kuwait, this is why when he was here, Hafidhullah, when the brother was translating taqwa, and he said that it meant, he translated to mean fear, he was saying, whoa, it's greater than just fear. It's not just restricted to just fear. Taqwa is a vast meaning, brothers and sisters, okay? So one of the definitions that Shaykh Fawzaad give for taqwa is that أَن تَجْعَلَ بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَ غَضِبِ اللَّهِ وَعَذَابِ, that you place between yourself, all right, and the anger of Allah and His punishment, وِقَايَةً تَقِيقَ مِنْهُ, as a protection for you from it, all right? So what you're doing with taqwa is you're taking it and you are placing a barrier between you and Allah's punishment and anger. So what you're doing with that taqwa is you're placing a barrier whereby it serves as a protection for you from Allah's anger and His punishment. He said, وَذَلِكَ بِطَاعَةِ اللَّهِ وَطَاعَ الرَّسُولِ, and this is done by obeying Allah and obeying His messenger. فَمُرَادُ بِالْمُتَّقِينَ, so what is intended here by the people who practice taqwa? He said, الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا بَيْنَهُمْ وَبَيْنَ عَذَابِ اللَّهِ وِقَايَةً بِطَاعَةِ اللَّهِ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى. It is those individuals who place or take between them, place between them a shield between that of Allah's, the punishment of Allah, as a protection by way of obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said some of the people of knowledge, they have defined taqwa to mean that it is to do that which Allah has commanded you upon a light from Allah and a hope for Allah's reward, and to stay away from that which Allah has prohibited you upon a light from Allah and a hope from Allah's reward, and fearing the punishment of Allah. He said this is taqwa. So in summary and brief, taqwa is to place between yourself and that which is disliked as a protection. Whereas though it doesn't reach you. It doesn't reach you, meaning Allah's torment or His anger. فإن لم تحصل لك هذه الوقاية فإن لا شك متوعد بالعذاب. سبحان الله العظيم. May Allah protect us. Ameen. He said, so if this protection does not reach you, it does not occur, you don't have this protection between yourself and Allah's punishment, then he said, indeed, there lies no doubt that you are one who is threatened under Allah's punishment. Okay? You are threatened under Allah's punishment. For this reason, the muttaqeen are specifically mentioned. For this reason. Then he asks a question. He says, so why is here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, Huda lil muttaqeen? It is a guidance for the people who have taqwa. Why is Allah mentioning the muttaqeen specifically here, even though the Quran is a hidayah li jami' nas? The Quran is a guidance for all mankind. Why? Because Allah says in the same surah, and I believe it's the 185 verse in Surah Baqarah, Allah says, Shahr Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Qur'an hudan lin-nas. Hudan lin-nas. Okay? Al-ayah. Allah says the month of Ramadan is where the Quran was revealed as a guidance to mankind. So why is Allah saying that it's a guidance for the people of taqwa specifically here? And then later on he said it's also the Quran is a guidance for all of mankind. Why? The Shaykh is asking us. He's getting us to think now. Okay? Because it is a guidance for mankind. It guides mankind to that which is good. فَمَنْ أَرَادَ خَيْرَ وَجَدَهُ. Whoever wants good, they will find it. And whoever turns away from it, then the proof and evidence will be established against him. لِأَنَّ اللَّهَ هَدَى جَمِيعَ النَّاسِ. Because Allah guides all of mankind. Meaning that Allah clarifies to them and guides them. And whoever from amongst them wants to benefit will benefit. And whoever does it does not benefit. But what is the answer? The answer is that here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically mentioned the people of taqwa because they are those who will benefit and be guided by it. Allahu Akbar. Okay? They are the ones who will understand the book is elevated. They are the ones who will understand that the book is great. They are the ones who understand that there's no contradictions in the book. They are the ones who will blind follow the book. They are the ones who will adhere to the commands in the book. They are the ones who will stay away from the prohibitions in the book. They are the ones who will follow those verses that are not entirely clear in the book and leave their meaning to Allah Azza wa Jal or to those who endow with knowledge. They are those ones. So they are the people of taqwa. They are the ones who are going to take heed. As for other than them, then the evidence will be established against them. And their excuses will be cut off. Whereas they will not have. And then next time we start, inshallah. Sorry that this part was a little bit lengthy. I want to stop here. The next time we start, we're going to talk on the categorization of the people in regards to the Quran, in regards to taqwa. So we'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala. I really would like to always keep it between 10 to 20 minutes so that we can stretch it out for the month of Ramadan. Inshallah ta'ala, hopefully a lot of people got some benefit from this tafsir. Also a little bit more respect for the book of Allah, knowing that the book of Allah is tremendous, is heavy, is esteemed, and that we should take it seriously. Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu was one who had memorized the entire Quran. Actually, he was martyred. And when he was being killed by the Muslims, he was one who was reading the Quran. He was reading the Mus'haf. He had the Mus'haf open. But he made a statement that a believer should not go a day without grazing, meaning himself. He said, do not go a day without grazing in the book of Allah. And we want to get to the point, if we cannot complete the whole Quran this month, and we are only able to complete half of it, or 1/3 of it, or a fraction of it, let's try to carry on that same momentum and consistency to do it next month, and then the month after. You want to get to a goal where you are finishing and completing the Quran. It's addy. It is from your custom. It's from your custom. This is the people who believe that the book has no doubt and contradictions. This is the people who believe that it is a guidance for them. These are those type of people. These are the people of taqwa that's going to constantly read the book of Allah. How you sitting there reading a self-help book? You're going to buy all these books from Walmart and all these different people. You're looking at Dr. Phil. You're going to this person. You're going to that person. How you doing all of these different stuff and you're not looking at the main book, the speech of Allah, and you don't understand that it contains all the benefits you want. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Ra'd, if it was a book that will raise the dead, it will cause the deaf to hear. All right? If it's a book that will cause the deaf to hear, okay, and raise the dead, it would be this book. And we don't understand that this book needs to be our friend. The shaitan cannot even approach you with this book, brothers and sisters. Allah says in Surah Yasin that the Quran is not poetry and it's not suitable for it. وَلَا يَنْبَغِي, cannot be. It's not suitable that it would be. And the shayateens cannot even approach it. So yet and still, we are still finding ourselves not taking this book seriously. And this is why we are behind in everything because the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not magnified in our hearts. It's not elevated in our hearts. It's why when we come in the masjid, we pick up the Quran and we place it on the floor. When we come and we open the book of Allah, we don't care if we're in wudu or not. This is why we don't have no respect for the book of Allah. And this is for myself. We have no respect for the book of Allah. When the Salaf will finish the Quran 4 or 5 times in Ramadan. They ain't finish it one time. We can't even get to that level yet. We can't even fathom that level yet because we're not reading the book of Allah. Oh, I can't understand it. I mean, it's in another language. I mean, it's hard. No, you're making excuses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you in Surah Al-Kahf, the very first ayat, Alhamdulillah, the one who anzal al-kitab, who sent down the book, alayka al-kitab. And he what? He made it what? He made therein, it's mustaqim, and there's no crookedness. There's no crookedness, no confusion whatsoever in the book. The book is clear, it's lucid. Meaning a child can understand what is in the book of Allah, brothers and sisters. Stop the excuses. Okay? Stop the excuses that it's difficult, it's hard for me to read. No, it's you and your nafs that is blocking you. This is why this book is so unique that if a person approached it, he had to seek refuge from the shaitan in order to read it. Allahu Akbar. So we have to take this. I didn't mean to go on a rant there. That was more so for myself because honestly, we're not taking the last revelation seriously. And one of the signs of the hour is that it's going to be removed from the Aqidah of the Salaf, as Shaykh Saalih Fawzaad mentioned, that we believe that the Quran from the Hadith will be removed in one night. It will be people in one night. Okay? In one night. Jazakallah khaym. Whoever said it was incorrect is definitely for myself and the shaitan. Whoever said it's correct is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Brothers and sisters, this is stage 3. Let's keep our energy. Let's be happy and excited. We are fasting. Don't forget to take your suhoor, brothers and sisters. We need that suhoor. And don't forget to inshallah ta'ala hasten to break your fast by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakallah khair.